Do I deserve this honor?
Earl, dude, I'm telling you right now, I foresee great things in your... If I was a fortune cookie, you would crack it open, it would say, Mike Terali, I foresee great things in your future. Because this is... honestly, in the 4 or 5 years that we have known each other, I don't know that you and I have ever spoken multiple times before 8:30 a.m. in a week.
Other than open water swimming, I usually didn't talk.
Yeah, you either didn't talk or sometimes you didn't show up till after 8:30. So I mean, yeah, that's
Come on, that thing started at 6.
I know, it's true. You're true. But you know, we're either gonna say, you know, athletic endeavors aside, you know, or even on like you being on the trace, just like normal chit chat. This is a record. Man, if this is what's to come for Louisville, watch out.
Yeah, by then I might be getting up at 4 a.m.
Man,
routinely.
let me say right now, if you're the one that wakes me up Sunday morning, then I'm probably gonna not even race, probably gonna DNS.
It's likely actually, because I might still be up.
That's the thing. You might wake me up at 4 and say, "Hey, Robbie, it's time to go heat up your breakfast." I'm gonna go actually catch some sleep, wake me up when we're walking down. That's more than likely how it's gonna go. So
I've been known to wake up in danger zones, and I go, "Well, I better get up, or I might not get up."
Exactly. Yeah, kind of like the Bib List fear. Which I gotta be honest with you, I share that same fear.
You do?
Not really a fear, but like. That's like my main reason for like, you know, wanting it to come out. I'm like, all right, okay. I mean, I saved my registration. I saved this. I put it in a folder. Okay, I'm good. But you just never know. But, you know, you don't stress too much because this one doesn't sell out. But
well, the only thing about it is, like, I stress because I know, like, if I'm not on there and I know I paid, but then I'm going to have to go through a process because you got to deal with the press 1 for more answer, press 2, you know, like those kind of situations. Whenever that kind of situation pops up in my life, I start getting stressed out because
you're just like, you know what, take another 800. I'd rather not deal with it. Just make sure you get it.
That's so funny. My favorite comedian, Bill Burr's got a thing about that. He says he's the same way. Like he won't. Like he says he still has gym memberships because he doesn't want to cancel them, so he just pays for them, like ongoing, because he doesn't want to have to deal with trying to cancel stuff or like flights. He doesn't try and get his money back. He just like, you know, eats it. God, because I mean, what's going on?
I think a lot of us are like that in a way.
I think that's a business model for people, honestly.
Why do you think restaurants are so successful?
Why is that?
I mean, because half the people are like that, and they're like, you know what, you know, this meal's okay. I'm just not going to send it back though, because I don't want to have to wait any longer. And they just kind of like suck it up and eat it. I'm very much that way, because I also worked in the customer service industry for a while, and I'm like, it ain't your fault anyway. But yeah, I think a lot of times we just kind of suck it up instead of taking the next step to kind of get reimbursed or refunded or
well, don't you think companies make it difficult, like cable companies or whatever it may be?
Oh God, yeah.
Just so you like give up, and then you're like, screw it, I'll just keep it, or I won't transfer it over or change. I think that's just part of the plan.
No, it for sure is. Or like, listen, if I have to be on hold for 10 minutes, I'm just calling back.
Yeah.
And then you don't call back, and then like, gotcha.
Another day, another year, another lifetime,
another year, another month.
If we can get, you know, and that's what I don't want to be. You know,
you don't want to be that guy.
No, I mean, you know, I just want to be upfront. I mean, I think that's what happens when people just get or companies get so big that they have to figure out, you know, innovative ways to make more money.
Oh God, yeah.
And you know, half that business plan becomes, let's just screw our current customers, and they say no, but you know, it's like, you know, my DirecTV debacles all the time.
I know. You stick with it.
Yeah, I do, but they don't stick with me.
We're going DirecTV with our new house.
Ooh, well, you know, I did find they have that online option. Not that we're going down some crazy road here, but if your satellite goes out, you can go through the internet. And so I don't know. It's just This world's moving too quick for me, man. I just want to slow down and be at my Ironman pace.
Yeah, I hear you, man. So today, before we start talking about, the cable company versus cable companies versus customer, so I've had, I would say more than half of the athletes that I work with, and probably way more than half of the people in our closed groupers, people that we hear from on a day-to-day basis, are done with their year, and they're starting to plan next year. And this is the time of the year where, and I know we talked about this a little bit in the past, or the last few casts, is that how to plan your next year, or when to plan, how to stay focused, and I just want to kind of give an example of what I'm doing for next year, and why I've laid it out the way I have, and why I believe it's going to not carry me through, but keep me extra motivated and focused through the colder months and the darkest months, which are honestly just hardest for people in general. It's you wake up and it's dark, you leave work and it's dark, you get home and it's dark. I mean, it's like, it's the worst. It's my least favorite time of year, easily, with all the darkness. And it's for a lot of people, it's depressing. No more vitamin D, no sunshine, and this is also the time of the year where you sign up and want to sign up for these gigantic goals next year, because you're super pumped and you're going to stay focused in the winter time, and then you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had a conversation with Allie maybe last week or something, and she was talking to me about races to do next year, and because I always like to get her input on, the dates, the months, what's going to work best for our family, what's going to work best for her, places she would like to go, places she doesn't like to go. And she was like, are you going to do...
What are some of those?
Well, she hates going to Muncie.
Oh, okay.
She doesn't hate it, but it's like, dude, it is like, it's the worst spectator race, period. I mean, it's a great race.
Yeah.
For people racing, but spectating wise, terrible.
That's because she's never camped out there.
Yeah, well, that's another good reason. She didn't like to camp, so it's like strike one, strike two, and it always falls within like 2 or 3 days of her birthday. So, I think I've finally, I've probably milked the Muncie cow as much as I can. So I'm actually going to do Ohio next year.
I saw you post something about that.
Yeah, I'm going to do Ohio 70.3.
Oh, that's her stomping grounds.
That's her stomping grounds, and I've actually heard outstanding things about that race from athletes that I've coached, and had a conversation with another one who did it, and I haven't heard one bad thing about it. And yeah, she used to live there. She has friends that live like 30 minutes from the race venue. It's towards the end of July, so it falls in a good time of a year for us, and so I'd like to say that I made that decision, but I didn't. She kind of made that decision, but we kind of made it together, and then I'll do Chattanooga. But having said that, she was like, are you going to do a full next year? And I said, well, we know how this kind of usually goes. I wasn't doing a full this year. I wasn't even doing triathlon this year, and now 25 days, from Ironman Louisville. So we know how that goes. But what I did tell her was that if I do a full next year, I don't want to line up with a pipe dream, or living on hopes and ridiculous expectations, because those are the easy parts. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to go sub 12 or sub 10, or I'm going to qualify for Kona, or I'm going to make the podium, or I'm going to do this. And those are the easiest things to say 10 months, 11 months, 12 months out of your race, because it sounds good and it sounds easy because they're words, not actions. But what I told her is if I do a full next year, more than likely it'll be Chattanooga, because she loves Chattanooga. She had a blast there when we went for Worlds. I know you're a huge fan of Chattanooga too, and so we're doing Chattanooga 70.3 next year, obviously. But she was like, yeah, it would just be super easy for for us to do, and Chattanooga is awesome. And so anyway, I said, but if I sign up for Chattanooga, I'm gonna put in place certain markers that I want to succeed at before I'm allowed to sign up for it. And what I mean by that is that if I do a full next year, I want to have a legitimate shot. Not just a legitimate, but I want to walk into it knowing if I have my best day today, then I should qualify for Kona.
And how do you make that decision?
I'm glad you asked. So the way I've laid it out is in order to sign up for Chattanooga in good conscience, I need to make the podium in my age group at Chattanooga 70.3. And then at Ohio, which is a very competitive age group, a very competitive race.
Yes.
It's a very competitive race in general. So that's a good marker because that's the same. It's not like, oh, I need to make top, a podium spot at this, not highly contested race. It doesn't mean much. It needs to mean something, and it needs to be a direct reflection of what might happen 5 months later.
That's top 5.
Correct. Top 5 in my age group, 35, 39, which will probably take a sub 430. And then after that, I need to be top 15 to top 20 overall amateur at Ohio.
Okay.
And if I can cross both those off the list, then I have both proven that I have the fitness and the form and the ability to actually make an 8-week jump and go for a Kona slot at Chattanooga. But I'm not going to do that unless I can hit my first 2 goals.
What if a bunch of beasts show up in Chattanooga, though? I mean, is there any fudge?
Then I have Ohio. Because Ohio will be the ultimate goal. It'll be the farthest throughout the year. It'll be the closest to September. So let's say I fall to like 6th or 7th in Chattanooga, and I still go in like the 420s. Well, then I'm still in a good spot.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say then I go to Ohio, and let's say I place in like the top 15 overall amateur.
Uh-huh.
And that's a much truer story, I think. But so I've set those. I don't want to say expectations, but results that the only way that I will have them is if I stay focused, and so it's almost like earning the opportunity, because I don't want to walk into it without this. And I think also these are. And the reason I bring it up, because I have athletes that will take that same approach that I coach that are want a Kona slot, but I'm like, listen, let's see how we do at getting faster first. So I'll have athletes, and that's kind of a good marker. But for other athletes as well, it's like the biggest benefit we talk about all the time of Ironman quote unquote saturation in North America, or just the waning population of triathletes, is the ability to wait when it comes to signing up for a full.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had this conversation with a lot of people who are just dead set on signing up for an Ironman. I've had to say, well, I know it sounds awesome because you just did one. You've seen all your friends do one. You just spectated one. Your spouse just did one. I know it seems awesome. I know it seems fun. I know the day seems amazing and incredible and everything you've ever wanted, because it is. But it's the 364 days before that are the hardest. And what's so wrong or bad about saying, you know what, I'm just going to focus on a few Olympics and a few 70.3s, and let's see how I like that volume. Mm-hmm. And let's see how I do with this, and let's see how it fits into my life, and let's see how I'm loving it. And then if we go through a couple, let's say you go through April, May, June, you're like, man, I'm loving this volume. Life is not very stressful. About to hit the summer, which is a tough time for a lot of people because kids are out of school, and it just brings a whole different dynamic in terms of training. And you're like, all right, this fits in great. Yeah, I can do it. I can sign up. All right, well then let's go for like a short 4 to 8 week build, which is totally doable. Let's rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
But so, I think that's important when you look to your year, is not necessarily, I guess it's a way of working backwards, but also earning your way forwards. Is to be a successful year, you don't have to do an Ironman. Depending on what your goal is. Obviously, I know it's all relative. It could be a lifetime goal, which, I know that's a little bit different, but you have flexibility now. You have opportunity now. You have the ability to be patient and say, all right, let me just get fast, limit my expectation, and then bam. If you get the itch and we have a conversation and it feels good, and let's rock and roll, baby. Let's go for the full. I don't necessarily recommend the 100 days out approach for everybody, but I think you and I would both agree that the short-term focus for a full, not having it an entire year, has many benefits. I know it has for me. I can focus on this for 100 days. Now, would I have loved to have had more volume and consistency before that? Well, sure. But I'm not sure I would have liked to have already known that Louisville was going to be the end result. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. It's kind of like sort of I was talking about kind of like you're jumping off the pier, man. It's sort of like kind of a spring. It springs it on you, and you don't have time to think about it. And I agree, because I don't know, necessarily if I would have changed anything anyway, because the way I train, I'm not a huge volume guy, so I got to rethink all that stuff anyway. For me, 100 days seems like a long time.
Well, it is. I mean, it's just a little under a third of the year, which is a pretty substantial amount of time.
Mm-hmm. But I do like what you're saying in the sense of doing a couple of those. I mean, I don't know if Chattanooga will be open after Ohio, would it? It's going to be on the fence, probably.
Yeah, I mean, and I told Allie that'll be. Yeah, there's always Louisville, but I said that. It's going to be another warmer September race, and it didn't sell out this year until I think July. So yeah, I'll be pushing it, and I told her, well, if we get to May, June, then we may just have to make that decision if it's going to sell out, and just either pass on it or use our best judgment together and my best judgment as a athlete on if it's a good idea or not, and if it's not, be okay passing on it. So we can cross that bridge when it comes, but it's not having it as a absolutely. It's an option, and I always think keeping your options open is a great thing, as long as you have a focus that's based on consistency, commitment to getting better, and an ultimate end goal, which is not a race but a purpose, and that is to get either faster, stronger, better at swimming, higher threshold in cycling, if it's to run a faster 10K. As long as you have those are more important, in my opinion, to get you to the end goal than always thinking of the end goal. And that's where I think people get swept up in the obsession of a year, regardless of the race. And that's why I have I think that if you asked Olympic athletes if they trained every single day thinking of 4 years from now, I think they would say no. I think they would say, while it's in the back of my mind, I know I have to get better each and every day, because they have so many events and so many races and so many things in the middle that they know that if I do all these little small things in the meantime, then I'll end up where I know I need to be.
Yeah, and I think that's the point.
Yeah, it's like, is it always in the back of their mind? Sure, absolutely. I'm not saying they never think about it. I'm saying when they wake up, I know I have to do X, Y, and Z in order to get to this ultimate goal. Not always ultimate goal, work their way backwards. It's that commitment and consistency that gets them the ultimate goal.
Yeah, and I think that's a different way to look at 70.3s too, because I hear it all the time. It's like, man, I really like the 70.3 distance. I'm going to really train for that. And I think in the back of that statement becomes sort of like, it's easier to train for 70.3. So if you're actually, and I was actually thinking about this in terms of, maybe local races or sprints or Olympics or something like that. You kind of have this, there's a tendency, if you got one of those coming up, to not train as hard because you've done Ironman and you think it's not going to be. But if you really went after it and trained for that distance and went out to win like you're talking about, that's just going to carry you forward, without, there's so much residual build from going hard at smaller, sections like that, and then it just naturally carries over because it's like I did that half this year, and I trained for that half. I didn't go all out for it, but I kind of took that approach. It's sort of like, well, that's a half. I like the distance. I can knock out this and not have to really work at it. But if I would have really worked at it, I would have been a lot further ahead when 100 Days of Louisville was announced. But I was still ahead. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think, but no, I totally agree with you. And I've people who ask via email or message, or even current athletes that are like, could I do this if I wanted to? I'm like, yeah, because you're all really consistent, purposeful, focused 70.3 training for me, because of the way that I coach, is not that much different from a full. Like, it's an easy 8-week jump. Easy 8-week jump. And the primary reason for that is because, we run quite a bit. We just don't run these gigantic long runs, which is what, a lot of people have as their biggest differentiators. And so I don't do that. And so makes it easier to make the leap, but it's not that much different. And to not have that, not just to have that goal on, you yourself as an athlete in December, January, February training for a full that's like 8 months down the road. Because the thing is, the farther away your goal, the easier it is to bag your workouts.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. It's so far away. I can make it up, or I've got plenty of time. Every time you say I've got plenty of time, you're wasting time. And that's one of the greatest things about not choosing one so early. And again, nothing wrong with choosing it early if you can stay focused, is not putting that pressure on you, or that, for those of us with families and stuff like that inconvenience workaround schedule of, hey, like, hey, Allie, do you mind if I get up early Saturday and basically take the whole, the entire first half of the day to myself? Like, not worrying about that, until like 2 months out, then makes it much easier on everybody, because your family or your significant other or whatever, or your support crew, it also allows them to think, okay, you know what? Yeah, it's perfectly fine to do that, because I know that this window is so short. It's not going to seem like, oh man, here we go again. I'm going to have to deal with this for the next 8 months. And they become, and some, and I know this for a fact, some spouses, supporters, or significant others, or even kids probably, become too resented because you are focused on it so far out, and it can have these, not very awesome effects on friendships, relationships, and stuff like that. And so that's also becomes with a relief, because knowing, for me in my situation, that I've got Allie's full support to train for 70.3s, and that it's going to be, there aren't going to be these gigantic, 5-hour, rides on Saturdays or whatever like that. Even though my schedule's pretty flexible, it's, okay, got these in place. We agreed on them. Let's do it. It's definitely a team thing, but it's just that feeling and that approach and that, setting these, not standards, but these monthly or even sometimes weekly goals of, let's just see if I can do this. Like, before we jump ahead of ourselves, let's just see if you can get a whole week in green in Training Peaks. Like, let's not get ahead of ourselves. let's see if you can get 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then, and because the hardest thing is to get consistent and get in a pattern. But once you fall into it, then is when the magic can happen. And you start to build on these greater goals and prepare yourself for these greater goals before you even know you're going to do them. Because those are the building blocks and foundations for doing something like a full, or even a really, if you're going to go hard at a 70.3, the same thing.
Well, that's the societal issue in a way. It's like everybody wants something now. I think that's become our tendency, is to look at, I want to do an Ironman now, next year, right away, and I've never even come close to it or whatever. But that just mentality takes over, I think, and I think that's why it makes it so hard to do what you're talking about, is to actually learn how to do something before you do it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like everybody wants to, everything's so fast now. You can learn how to play guitar in 3 weeks or whatever. But I mean, come on, you know what I mean? That's not you're not going to be playing Kona guitar. You can
Kona guitar.
It's like it takes forever, and it's like, but also, I mean, hypothetically, going back to when I started, I had done an Olympic and then signed up for an Ironman. And I think a lot of people, or a couple Olympics actually, no, one, and signed up for an Ironman a year later. And I know a lot of people probably think like that. But, it's the same thing kind of probably. If you sign up for, let's say, Chattanooga half, and you got 6 months to train for it, train hard, then, it's like, let's go there first. Mm-hmm. I mean, but what kind of discipline that would take? I mean, a lot, we signed up for Wisconsin. That probably wouldn't be open at that point, but you can always sign up and transfer, right?
Yeah. If the race you're doing isn't sold out, but it's kind of like one of the very first conversations I had with you guys 4 or 5 years ago was, because your first big race Ironman event was 70.3 Muncie, and I you guys, so when are we going to start training for Wisconsin? When are we going to start training and focusing on us? I said, not until after Muncie. Our focus is going to be Muncie. But within that focus is going to be a foundation and strength and speed built on knowing what's coming after that. But this race 8 months out, which our conversation in December or January, isn't going to be the main focus of your training. Right now, we're going to focus on strictly Muncie. And and that's also another reason, like, depending on where you live in the U.S. or even the world. Like, I was talking with an athlete earlier this week who I'm going to start working with in California, and he wanted to do a real early season. He's going to do Wildflower, and which is a May race, and so a really big focus build for that is going to take a lot out of you, and then you get to May and you're like, well, shit, I still got more than half the year left. Yeah. And so with him, is I would do much of what I kind of did with you guys, which was, like, I think pretty eye-opening but also refreshing and meaningful. Was I said, listen, man, after Wildflower, you're just going to take like 2 weeks and just do whatever the hell you want. In breaking up those seasons of focus to kind of like refresh, set yourself up, rewind. Okay, now let's go at it again. Because you need does your body need time to recover and sometimes take 2 steps back to take 5 steps forward? Absolutely. 100%. But in my opinion, more oftentimes than not, what you see and what I hear from athletes is that I just need a mental and emotional break from the commitment and the outline and the structure and the having this over my head. Like, I just need a break from that. And then when they come back mentally refreshed, that's when they're ready to get back to work. Because their body will start to crave it. They're like, oh man, like I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. Like, they just get like, it's like sign up junkies. It's like the equivalent of like, drunk dialing. you're somebody you shouldn't. It's like triathletes, just like, I don't know, I'm just gonna sign up for this race and this race, and then I'm gonna do a 500K trail race, and I'm gonna do a 10K time trial the next week, and what do you think about this obstacle course event? I'm like, just chill out. Like, when your brain and your mind start to like feed that, what that also says to me is, let's take a step back. Because if you have to, then we probably need to have more conversations about what your relationship might be, or what you think is missing that you're needing to fill this with registrations for these unwildly events 2 days after you just finished a full Ironman. Like, it's time to recharge, and so, or it's like, okay, so what can we do different to put you, or to get you in a place where you don't need or feel, or so, not the need, you don't feel the need that you have to do that. Like, because that's where you win as a coach, because I talk about it before, is like, it's all about perspective, and like, okay, so where can I do better as a coach in instilling this not belief system, but this thought process in, I'm just going to work on getting better, and whether that looks like 6 hours a week or 16 hours a week, I don't have to have an event. Like, I know everybody else might have to, but I don't have to. Like, I just want to get better. Like, I literally just want to get better, and I want to be consistent, and I want to do it every day. And, because I literally have athletes who really only want to race twice a year. Like, and they're perfectly okay with it. And then I have other athletes who literally, I'm like, shut up, stop signing up for races, calm down. Like, I'm going to have to slow you down. Because it's like, I got to race. And like, I love it, wanting to race and loving to race is a great mentality to have, but you will never reach your ability if you do it all the time. And so it's that, like, it's just that happy medium, and saying yes and then telling people, and then telling athletes no, or being okay that you've only got X and Y in your calendar, and not this big Z, because you know that everything that starts at A, all that stuff leading up to it, is what matters the most. And if you can just commit to that, and just stringing, like we always talk about, stringing days with weeks, and weeks into months, and months into a year, that's when you really get just fantastic results. And so, the hardest time, sometimes is just to say no. I don't need to have that on my calendar.
Yeah, and there's always, like, and I get this too, but there's people that just like to race, right? And or that may, then you have to question, as you're talking about, what the goal is. I mean, are you really trying to get better, or are you just doing this for entertainment value? And I mean, I gotta say, it's like, it's one thing to say, yeah, I love racing, but I mean, racing kind of is hard, and actually it kind of sucks sometimes, like when you're on that run, it's almost every time I'm on a run, I'm like, why do I do this? And,
sure.
You know what I mean? So it's
first 6 miles of every race I've ever done, I'm like, I'm probably just gonna turn back at the next aid station. I'm good.
Yeah. So that to me is like the underlying issue. Is like, yeah, I just love to race. I love it. But do you really love to race? I mean, or is it you just going because you want to be out there in the limelight, and you think that's gonna like spark you to enjoy life, or whatever it may be?
Or are you just chasing a PR every single time?
Yeah, but I mean, that's what I mean. Is like, I know a lot of people that race all the time who really don't even. Maybe they get a PR, but they certainly don't have, like, they don't seem to get better, or they don't have great races or whatever. They're just racing a lot. Sometimes it happens, and probably most times it doesn't. So, like with me, I can't wait till after Louisville when I can actually go out for like a 2-mile run, and just like sort of let it be, or you think about how much work and time you put on. Now, an hour ride to most people probably listening to this podcast seems like nothing, but 99% of America doesn't do an hour ride, or can't do it probably, or 90 or whatever. So it's an hour ride is like pretty good exercise, for most people. So I mean, that's kind of more in the normal scope of things.
Yeah.
And I really do look forward to those sort of like easy rides, easy runs, and maybe dip in the pool once in a while after the races. And to me, that's getting the getting better part too, is the holding back.
Yeah, and I think that's when like you have to love what you do or what it's doing for you. That has nothing to do with race results. Like, if you just really, really love to ride your bike, then you're going to ride it anyway. Because you like the way it makes you feel, you like what it does for you. If you just like to swim, you're going to go swim. You know, like I was reading something from Ryan Holiday, one of my favorite authors. It's like, forget meditation, go swimming. Because, for me, that's how it is. Like, I get in the pool and I might have like 99 problems, but I get out of the pool and I'm like, I just fixed the world.
You're just no.
At least I have that feeling, or like I was riding with Jerry Keller and Amy. I think the last name is Isabel, but they came down from Louisville last week and we rode the Trace. She was like, "Oh man, I bet it would be just beautiful to come back down here in October, late October, and just ride out here when the leaves are changing." And I'm like, yeah, that'll, my first thought was, oh, that'll be a couple weeks after Louisville, wonder how I feel. But I was like, man, that will be awesome. Just to get out and to ride and enjoy, just the fact that we have that kind of place to ride, but because I love it.
Yeah.
Not
no
like,
agenda.
Exactly. No agenda. I just, when I get in the pool, for me, getting in the pool is different, a much different feeling for me than cycling and running. For me, I get in and I swim and I'm trying to find like seconds, barely seconds, or I get in it to like be, meditative or in fix problems. And because it's the only place for me, and I think a lot of people, like, it's the only place I can go now that totally cancels out the noise.
Yeah, it's 100% breath. You're just
exactly.
breathing.
You hear nothing except for yourself. And so for me, that's like that meditative state. So I'll definitely do that. Running for me, in the winter, I came to just love running in the cold in Kansas. And I know that's something you always talked about. I remember just scoffing at the idiocy of your comment of like, I just love it when it's cold. It like makes you feel alive. But living in Kansas City with some of the mornings that were like in the single digits, I learned to just love running outside in the cold. Because there's nobody else out there. And running on the trails we were at and the greenway, it's just like you and nature. And it was like there was a 18-mile greenway and a creek ran beside the whole thing. I was like, this is it. This is how it's supposed to feel. And so the same thing with riding. And although I can't, ride outside, the whole year because I'm just kind of a pansy when it comes to that. But that having a true love for what you're doing and not a hobby built on expectations and numbers, that's when you that's when you do it because you love it.
Yeah.
You just have to love it, or see the value in what it does for your whole life, not just the race you signed up and spent money for.
Yeah, I think my swimming actually is kind of I love the same thing about swimming that you do. It's when you get in there and you just all you can think about is breathing, and I mean really. And then but the same goes for me with hills. That's why I think I love riding hills so much, is because you can't be in your head really there. You just kind of like your body is pumping blood and you're just sort of in the moment when you're riding up a big hill. And it's a little bit different because it's a lot harder probably than what you're talking about. You just find that meditative space. But yeah, those are I mean, when you're talking about running in the cold, that kind of gives me chills thinking about, because I love that feeling. And that's the thing about mountain biking and when it gets colder, is that you can layer up and you're not in that aero position just cranking for 3 hours. You're sort of navigating the whole thing, and that's that meditative place too. You got to be thinking about what you're doing and bike handling. And that was my life. That's how I grew up. Doing stuff like that all the time, running in the cold, playing football in the snow with my friends, and just doing all those sorts of things. And it's so true. I mean, it's playing, but those are where the skills are developed. Those are where the skill to just flow is developed.
Right, but that's also the reason why I think it's like what comes first, the chicken or the egg. With you, you've always talked about how cycling just comes so naturally to you and you get it back so quick. But which came first? You do it more and you love it more and you do other things because you're passionate about it, or the other way around? And I think when you have like a passion I think everybody has a singular connection more with one of the three sports than they have with the others. And I think if they would look at it, it's like, oh man, like for me, it's swimming. I just have a different connection with swimming. I have a different feeling when I get in the water. But I also love biking and I love running because I love the fact that I have so much more work to do to try to get better. I have so much more room for improvement. But I think that the relationship I have with swimming is also why I get it back so quick. Is
For
because
sure.
I take myself to a different place and it feels different. It doesn't feel like work. And I think the same could be said with your passion, your love of cycling.
I was just talking to Kenny about that yesterday, how, like I said, my whole goal with all these sports is to make them feel easy. And what you're just saying about swimming, that makes sense. I mean, you have that you have whatever it is that you developed over the years and years of doing it. I think you've talked about it. You have a way. You've said to me before, it's like you kind of got frustrated at one point with my. I see you're like, come on, man, swimming is easy. You just need to figure it out. And I think that that sounds crazy because most people don't believe that at all. But the more you learn about it, the more. And I do have those moments where swimming does feel easy, and if it's about training your body to just flow through a state of mind, you know what I mean, like without. And that when I think about running and cycling, it's the same way. It's like, how do you make this less difficult? And I think I think that's what I have with cycling is I just know how to do it innately, and I don't know why necessarily sometimes, but I'm always looking for that. And same with running, because sometimes, how it is, running can just feel like it's a piece of cake sometimes. It's just for segments probably, and then and it's all to do with your rhythm, your posture, your breathing, your fluidity of your muscles, and everything like that. But how do you find it? And that's what you're talking about, is you always are trying to find different things about running, and certainly fitness, of course, but I just, because there's certain people that I know that used to run a lot, for example, and they'll just be like, hey, yeah, I'll do that half this weekend, and they haven't been running at all, and then they go out and they don't necessarily crush it, but they make it seem pretty easy,
right?
And there's something about the history of being an endurance athlete in swimming, biking, or running that just doesn't leave you.
Yeah, it's true.
It's literally like getting back on the bike and on the run and in the pool or whatever. But that takes a lot of practice, and that's just repetition. It gets harder when you're older too. I think that's a big part of it.
Well, yeah, and I think like you can't love it if you don't even like it. Is the thing, I know that sounds like sounds like philosophical, first gradeness, but it's so true. Like, because I know a lot of people here like I just hate this. I just hate this. Then you need to find a way just to even kind of like it before you can just fall in love with it. And it's like I've heard multiple people are talking about like past couple days. They're like, I just hate riding my bike.
Oh yeah.
Like, well, you picked up the wrong damn sport. Because you're gonna turn to like resentfully be on it, and that I can't imagine it. Like, yeah, do I get frustrated with my run or my cycling sometimes? Absolutely, but in like what's a good way to figure out a way to just kind of like it? And then you have some people like you, or I have a couple of athletes who are like, I just want to go ride my bike, because they just have so much fun, whether it's hopping on a fat tire bike or cyclocross or road bike, whatever it is. They just love to ride. And, and I want to, like the other day I was on the trace, I want to feel like this is what they think. Like when the big motorcycle packs come by on the trace and see us cyclists, I have to think that they're like, they are out here for the same reason I'm out here, because I just love the way that it feels.
Mm-hmm.
Now they may be doing it, a very different, a different method, but you know what I'm saying? Like they're like, I can see that, and I can appreciate what you're doing because I'm doing the exact same thing. You're just using your legs. And I think it's important, and maybe that's the simple answer, is find a way, or find an event, or find an avenue, or find anything during the off season to turn whatever you have, whatever your hardest discipline is, just into a like. Because if you can like it enough just to do it more, then you're probably going to love it. Because then you're going to see results. And it all goes back. It's like, you just don't know what comes first, healthy or happy and healthy, because the more consistent you are, the better results you are, the better results you get, the more consistent you want to be. The happier you are, the more you're going to work out, the more you work out, the healthier you're going to be. It's like all these things that coincide together, and it's all about, again, I guess is, the previous podcast is eliminating stress, finding things that you enjoy, doing things that you like, and finding ways to, because listen, triathlon is very much a relationship. And if you don't think it is, then you're fooling yourself. It is very much like a relationship. It is difficult. At times there are things you don't want to do. You have to plan, you have to concede, you have to make sacrifices, you have to communicate either with yourself or your coach. It is and especially if you have a coach, it is 100% like a relationship. But so is the sport, and it has to be a healthy relationship, and you have to find ways to work on what you're not good at in order to make the whole thing better. And if you're not willing to, because it's the same thing for relationships, like there are still things that I suck at that I try to do better at, but it's that commitment to just trying to do better and not being okay with being fine that allows you to grow. And with growth, I think, comes fulfillment, and then with fulfillment becomes gratitude. And if you can follow that kind of line, then I think you're going to have a good relationship and a good outcome within any sport, regardless of what it is.
Yeah, it's you talk about liking something. I can tell you a real quick way to not like triathlon is to go from 0 to Ironman training in 60 seconds. You know what I mean? That's exactly
so true. That's
exactly why I have a trouble with cycling, which is something I used to love. And it's sort of this, hey, let's go for it, man. Let's start training for Ironman and riding 3, 4, 5 hours on a TT bike, and it's that type of stuff that, or those long runs, or it's an easy way to build up too fast and get overwhelmed with something before you understand how to do it.
Right.
And that's kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier. It's a biting off more than you can chew is a quick way to not like something.
Exactly.
And
yep.
So with that,
totally agree.
So I mean, we can wrap that up. I think about that a lot because that's a lot of people. I do these. I don't do a lot of 4, 5, 6 hour rides, but I know in the back. I don't know if it's just because I have that in the back of my mind. I know that it's gonna suck for one day.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can just fight through it.
Yeah, but that's the thing, and that we talk about all the time. I know we're wrapping up here, but that's the thing, and that's the genesis behind you only have to do it one day, and to come in a little bit more undertrained or not having these like slog fest 4-hour runs,
mm-hmm.
is that you begin to resent the time you spend doing it. And that carries over to your energy and your mentality when you get to a race. And that's why people give up a month out before, because they're mentally and emotionally exhausted, and they become resentful of the time they've had to spend doing it, the results they may or may not be getting, and the fact that it hasn't happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so they walk into the race with that mindset. I'm just ready to get it over with.
Yes, God, I love that. I really do love. I mean, again, for that ultimate goal of mine, I don't know. That's one thing, but I still keep going. Like we talk about it, going to the edge. It's like I ride 3.5 hours, for example, or 4 hours, and I'm like, you know what? I feel good. I feel pretty good. I don't feel like sitting out here for 2 more hours, but I feel like I'm in a place where I could. And it's that confidence to know. And again, that's what I always lean my hat on is going into that race and just hoping it all comes together. It's like, and it may, you never know. But probably not, but you just never know. And to me, that's kind of exciting. And it gives me sanity along the training path.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. So becoming, like, for me, I'm at that, all right, I've got 4 or 5 days left, and we got a lot of exciting things happening. Like, we just closed on our new house yesterday. We'll start slow moving. Like, thankfully, this is like best case scenario as far as a move goes. Like, maybe not the timing, but the fact that we're not actually, moving out an entire house.
Right.
Like, we moved here from Kansas City in May and we started looking for a house. And so we just literally put 90% of our stuff boxed up from our move in storage.
Mm-hmm.
And then over the last 2 months, we've just been buying stuff for the new house, leaving it in the box and leaving it in my mom's garage. So in terms of like, having to spend all this time like packing, it's like minimized to like probably 20% of what it would have been. And then, I mean, let's be honest, folks, hiring movers is the best thing you can ever do.
Yeah.
So we're doing that on Monday. And so, but then it's, I'm like, I'm generally just like antsy excited. And to have that antsy excited feeling with like in my last hard week that's probably something I've never felt. Is that, man, I'm just excited and antsy. Like, I'm still focused, and this is it. Instead of like, oh man, I've just got to make it through this week. Just get it over with. Yeah. Or the old, yeah, but I've done so much up until then. I can just take today off and it won't matter.
Yeah. I mean, how many people you think just basically ruin their race the last month because of those kind of thoughts?
Well, they don't ruin it.
Not ruin, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I totally get what you're saying. They totally remove all tension from their body. And we talked about that before. Like, they go into a race flat and sluggish because everything that's worked up till 30 days out, they give up on.
Yeah.
They take extra days off. They become less consistent. They get out of a routine. They, start eating like crap. Because let's be honest, guys, when one part starts to cave, the rest are quick to follow.
Mm-hmm.
Because like that's one day is one bad day can easily turn into 2, and the same can be said with consistency and goodness. One good day can turn into 2 if you wanted to, and then 2 days, 3 days is easier. Okay, 4 days isn't that bad, and you string it on. So yeah, there are ways to dial it in. Let's just go ahead and record next Monday and Thursday's podcast. There are ways to dial it in, and stay focused, and there are ways to dial it back and take steps back.
I was just laughing there because I was like, as we go into next year and developing training plans for the coaching and everything, maybe we should, do sort of a personality test, see if we can figure out how we can understand if people will get in that mindset where they are sick of it by the last month, and then release the training schedule. Say it starts in February, and then day 1 comes out and they look at Training Peaks and it says nothing, and then you delay the training 30 days so that they're peaking at the right time, so they don't cave the last 30 days. It's
That's
like
an option.
you're starting tomorrow, but you start next month.
Training. Yeah, I like it.
So you're fired up and a little bit undertrained when you go into that race, rather than burned out and overtrained.
Yeah. They're like, what am I paying you for a month of like 4 weeks of blank training peaks? Yeah, you don't see the value in that?
Patience, grasshopper.
Patience, that's it. It's 30 days of patience and meditation.
That's like
Consider
the
it
perfect
like
like
quiet time.
Zen training, man. It's like, here's your schedule. Nothing. Work on it. Work your ass off at nothing.
That's it. Tomorrow, just feel it. Do you?
Tomorrow, yeah.
I gotta say this. Two. These are the two last things, and we'll wrap up. I promise. It's like those like when somebody's trying to be philosophical, and you're just like, you're just lazy. Like, stop trying to fool me with this. And like, I had an athlete that was asking me an opinion about something, and she was like, and I was offering her some advice about about going into a race, and I was like, well, what is, she's like, well, so and so told me the advice so and so gave me the night before my biggest race was swim with your arms, bike with your legs, run with cardio. What the fuck does that mean? like that's the kind of crap you see in like a triathlete's porta-john bathroom stall. Like,
Yeah.
you even like, did you etch that in? Like, what does that even mean? And then the other thing was, two of our athletes, another C26 marriage, actually going down, here on the, let me look, she was just texting me. We've already had, hey, listen, if you're single and looking to mingle, we're gonna have two C26 marriages going down this year, which is probably unheard of. But no, Stephanie Cinders and Matt Thomas, two of our athletes, are getting married on September 30th, and I went ahead and was so next week, and I was working on her schedule, and so for next week I just put in like a little custom thing, and I said, don't do shit but get married this week. and then the next week I had don't do shit but just enjoy being married this week, and we'll get back to work the next week. And you know what, that's going to be hard for her. She's so used to being consistent. She was like, and Matt, who's about to be her husband, she was like, I think he might get sick of me in our first week of marriage if I take a full week off. But that's the kind of stuff you love. It's like they want to keep doing it, they want to be consistent, they like the routine, but sometimes you have to get in their own way and be like, this is a week, you just enjoy it. If you want to do something, do it, but I'm not going to put any structure, because go enjoy yourself. So
Yeah.
best wishes to them, and hope the wedding goes awesome, and then get your ass back in gear October 9th.
Yep. Today's workout, 24 hours of breathing. All right, so we got go to crushingiron.com, check out our coaching options if you're kind of kicking that around for this off season and next year. A lot of different options, and you can always email the coach directly, right?
Yeah, c26coach@gmail.com. Had quite a few inquiries on the 2018 prep plan. So if you want details on that, on how to stay focused, get results, have structure, and not be overwhelmed, but be excited during these colder months, then shoot me an email, c26coach@gmail.com.
We have a closed Facebook group that has a lot of good stuff happening, perfect for your off season to keep engaged and meet new friends and find great ideas. That's you search Crushing Iron Group on Facebook, and we'll ask for the invite, and we'll let you in. And obviously crushingiron.com. It's a great time for a swim analysis. Your off season, start your swim.
Yeah, I had quite a few of those come in, and a lot of people are putting them off towards the end of the year.
Don't put it off, man. Let's get it going. Like we said, it's like start when you're young.
Yeah, or young-ish.
Young-ish. Young in the cycle of the training.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
it's like
true.
learn it now and practice it all winter.
That's it. Perfect time of the year. Learn, apply, destruct.
Okay, that's about.
All right, man. Good chatting with you. Thanks for tuning in, and we will come at you next Monday with a Ironman Chattanooga race recap. Augusta 70.3 shout outs, and, other random stuff we decide to talk about.
Yeah, and there will be a lot of goodness. Okay, I guess that's it. CrushingIron@gmail.com with any other questions. And what's that?
Or complaints.
Or complaints, yeah. I'll take your complaints at crushingiron@gmail.com.
Sweet.
Actually, don't do that because I'm a little testy on complaints right now. No, I'll handle them fine.
Sounds good.
I think I'm going to go meditate in the pool for a while.
Do it, man. I'm going to go move some stuff.
Oh, okay.
Talk to you later, dude.
See you, man.
All right, man. See you.